Living Waters presents On the Box.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Monday edition of On the Box. Tony here, along with Mark. How are you, brother?
Doing well. That's me, Mark Spence.
Mark Spence. So, you and I did something this weekend, not together,
Right.
but we did something similar. We went and saw Courageous.
Yes, but I didn't see it this weekend.
Oh, you saw
Yeah.
it. That's right. You saw a pre-screening of it sometime before it came out.
Yeah,
That's right.
about 4 months ago or so. I loved it. Absolutely loved the movie. In fact, I think it's the best Christian movie I've ever seen. I mean, I'm not going to say that the gospel was amazing inside of it, but I didn't go for the gospel.
Right.
You know, I had my heart ripped out. I was sitting between two friends of mine, and I was like this. I was all, stop looking at me. And especially the ending. I don't want to give it away for those who haven't seen it yet, but the ending just had my heart ripped out. You know, encouraged to rise up and be a man, with your kids.
Yeah.
So loved it. And you liked it as well?
Oh, yeah. Maria and I went with my sister and my brother-in-law and nephew, and went without the girls, a date night. And, I don't know how many times I cried during that movie. I thought it was really good. Like you, I thought it was one of the best Christian movies I've ever seen. The gospel presentation was brief, but the context was right. I can see that conversation happening between brothers behind the badge like that. And I went home and I told my girls, and I'll tell them again because they're probably watching, when you girls get to see Courageous, you'll understand why your daddy wants to dance with you. Amazing. Go see Courageous. Great movie.
You know, there were a lot of little twists and turns that you weren't expecting.
The humor was really good too.
Yeah,
the humor was sharp. I mean, it was some cop humor, appropriate cop humor. I mean, it was funny. The one scene, you just got to go see it. There's one scene involving the patrol car where they've got the ride along.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Would you ever do something like that?
Now that I've seen the movie, I would say yes. If I had the opportunity, yes. No, you know what? Actually, I can't share, but something similar. But statute of limitations probably isn't out on that yet. So, anyways, we're up to 443,000 views for 180 on YouTube.
You know, I don't know of another movie. We were talking about this. I don't know of another, I guess, video on YouTube that's longer than 30 minutes that has had that many hits in this amount of time.
Yeah.
And not with the help of YouTube either,
nope.
You know, because we had uploaded it, I think, on Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, and then we didn't make it public until Sunday. Well,
they
YouTube
started the counter.
Right?
Yeah,
YouTube recognized it all the way back, so it never made it as far as I saw. Maybe it did, and maybe Daniel knows.
It's number one in its category.
Number one in the category for this month.
Yeah,
absolutely, for the most talked about, most discussed, and I think it's second or third for the most liked video in the nonprofit category.
Yeah,
but it's great.
And you know, I was talking to Easy this morning, and he said that the Courageous trailers on YouTube that have been out since about March have got about 600,000 views.
Oh,
and
wow.
again, we want to encourage you to see that movie. Great movie.
Yeah.
Good friends of the ministry. Great movie. But this 33-minute documentary has almost caught that in a little over a week's time.
Yeah, it is in its own rights going viral. You know, I had received a phone call from one of my brothers up in Oregon, and he had shared with me, he goes, hey, Mark, now he doesn't typically give me a call, right? He doesn't typically answer my phone. He's a very busy guy. I'll give that to him or whatever reason. But he goes, hey, you have to talk to an old friend of mine. I just bumped into him. So he put him on the line, and I said, pleased to meet you. His name was Tom. And Tom said, hey, I was just discussing 180 with your brother. I brought it up to him. Now, my brother did not solicit to him. This guy out of the blue brought it up to my brother, and he said that...
Not a believer.
I don't know. Right, yeah.
Well, as far
he
as
didn't
you know,
claim to in the conversation. Yeah, absolutely not. But he had said that the computers were down at his work, and he oversees, a lot of... telemarketers, I think, or salesmen of some degree.
Boiler room.
And so he put up 180, and he allowed all the people inside the room to watch 180. And he said he was surprised that people had no idea who Hitler was.
Yeah.
And he said, there was a decent message, towards the end, as you guys are getting into that. But what he was taken back on was people who had no idea who Adolf Hitler was. And the day previous, somebody had posted 180 on his Facebook wall. So then when he went to talk to my brother about it, he said, hey, have you seen this 180 documentary that's out there? And he goes, oh, my brother worked on it. So just surprisingly small world in which we live in. So it gave me a chance to be able to talk with him on the phone and then talk more with my brother. So
and we're getting requests from all over the world to translate into other languages. And we're presently working on, I'm not going to get them all, but we're presently working on Spanish, French, Italian, Russian, Romanian, Polish,
Pig Latin,
other kinds of Latin. But it's been great. Yeah, it's been great. So we need your help to get to 500,000. We'd really like to do that within the next day or so. We think we can. Weekends are typically quieter. We're still waiting to hear from a couple really well-known individuals in the Christian music industry who have said they are going to endorse it, but that hasn't gone public yet, so maybe I shouldn't share their names, should we? Can we?
I don't know.
I don't know.
The people behind the camera are saying no. They're shaking their heads.
All right. Well, wait for it. Okay. All right, let's get going. Today's 180 question. I'm against abortion, and I work as a nurse. My biggest concern is that I am not sure if I would vote for a president who is against abortion, because what if a pregnant woman really doesn't want her baby and is willing to kill him or her no matter what? What method do you think she will take? A drastic method to kill the baby. I am concerned about the health of women also. What would you answer to make me change my mind? So basically, and this is a pretty common argument, that if you make abortion illegal, millions of women are going to get injured or die because they're going to go to back alley butcher shops to have their abortions. So shouldn't we let abortion remain legal? Yeah, it's an honest question. No snarkiness in the question. So I know it's tough, but what do you think?
Yeah, okay, so I would say...
I thought you were going to yell.
No, I didn't. It's just the arguments that are brought out are silly to me, but I have to understand, that there are legitimate questions to people. It's almost along the lines of, people are going to rob banks anyways. Shouldn't we allow people to rob banks?
Right.
Or, hey, people are going to run stoplights. Shouldn't we get rid of red lights because they're going to run them anyways?
Why put locks on your door? People are going to break into your home. Why damage the door, too?
Yeah. So people are going to do it anyways. What should we do with those women? I say we arrest those women for murder. That's what you do. It's going to happen anyways.
On the box at livingwaters.com, on the box at livingwaters.com.
They should be tried for murder. I mean, well, it's their body. They can do what they want with their body. Well, what about the other body?
What about the baby's
body?
There's
another body that's included in there.
Yeah.
And everybody that is for abortion has already been birthed, already been born. It makes me a little upset. I can't imagine doing a debate without getting heated, but I think that we need to enter into maybe a realm like that. I don't know if there's anything I can say to this individual because of their presupposition. Convince me. Go ahead and convince me. I don't know if I can convince them because they're already convinced otherwise. What they need to have is a biblical worldview. Because when you don't have a biblical worldview, you can do whatever you want to do because it feels right to you. In fact, I think one of the very first verses inside the Satanic Bible says, do it if it feels good to you, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
So I don't know what can be said to this individual. Get a biblical worldview and see what God has to say. God knew us while we were yet being formed, while we were in our mother's womb. Right? So get that biblical worldview, see what God has to say about it, and then come on board with what God has already spoken.
Yeah. I think it is a very good answer that you gave. Being in law enforcement for most of my life, we would never think of changing the laws of the land if by enforcing those laws there was a risk to criminals breaking the law. You know what I mean? You're not going to make legal stealing cars, because when people steal cars, if they run from the police because they're breaking the law, they could crash and hurt themselves or hurt someone else.
Yeah.
So therefore, we ought to make stealing cars legal. That's ridiculous on its face. And the same is true about abortion. Women shouldn't have abortions. They shouldn't murder their babies. And the government shouldn't be supporting it by making it legal to do so. Simply because women may go out of their way and hurt themselves because they're so bent on killing their baby.
That's right.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. 180 booth. We have some friends in Las Vegas who did something really extraordinary, I think this last weekend. Chris Raymond, Doug Koch, and their team. I'm going to share with you a testimony. It's a little bit long. I'm going to try to read fast. We've got a few pictures for you. The last 2 days have been filled with the outpouring of God's mercy and grace at our 180 Outreach booth here in Las Vegas. Around 120 people over 2 days packed into a 10 by 10 booth and watched 180, the majority of them being high school students. We had a volunteer out front with a sign that read, "Earn $5 by screening our award-winning, heart-changing documentary." And while some may scoff and say that you paid them to get them to watch it, to this I say, what's the value of a human life or a soul? The fact remains that 120-plus people sat in a warm booth in Las Vegas, Nevada, and watched a heart-changing pro-life documentary, and the gospel went forth. Once in the booth, guests were given cold water, a pre-screening briefing, and asked to fill out the first part of a survey that pertained to the film they were about to watch. And the testimony goes on. A couple of quick stats. They did 105 surveys total. More than 120 people watched the documentary. More than 105 people completed the survey.
Right.
And 97% of them changed their mind from pro-choice to pro-life after watching the documentary.
Wow, I got to give Shannon mad props for that. I mean, I love the idea of what she did, being able to go out and do that. I mean, I want to do it. Go to your swap meet, set up a little booth, probably $100 for the weekend, perhaps, and show the video. You see the young people like that, set up to watch this. That's the age group we want to hit.
That's right.
I want to go to the high schools and the colleges and stand outside and be able to hand out these videos. Ray has a very good idea, the T-shirt idea. Did you see his T-shirt idea?
Yes, about going to the sporting events?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, I
Better
love
than
it.
painting your stomach, I'll tell you that.
It's where every individual person has one character on their shirt. 1, and then you'd have an 8, and then the next person is 0. 180movie.com. So you have 12 people or 13 people that are up there behind the goalpost trying to get on television. You got the 180movie.com, and there's nothing they can do with that.
Yeah.
Or go to an overpass, and stand there.
Well, and people are planning to do that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's getting creative. I like the idea of let's work smarter instead of harder, just because I'm lazy. So if we can work creative in the midst of getting this message out there, then gung-ho on it. I love it.
And as far as charging or offering $5 to someone to watch a movie and take a survey, man, if you have the resource to do that, praise God. $5 to show somebody a life-changing, life-saving documentary, one that shares the gospel with them, and then have dialogue with them. They also had a counselor from a women's clinic, one that doesn't do abortions, doing counseling. They had great conversations with these young people.
Yeah.
And I get all of the email coming from the 180 Movie site. I get to screen it first. Today, I can honestly say that I've never had the F-bomb thrown at me so many times in a large lavender font as I did today from one lady who was very angry about the documentary. Used to like lavender. Not liking lavender right now.
I liked how they had the different stages of the baby. They were able to hold them, able to touch them.
Yeah, they had models. And
I remember it was at a Christian bookstore in Salt Lake City, Utah, where they had in the center of the bookstore, they had the weight of the golden plates that Joseph Smith would have had when he was running through the forest, running away from people.
Yeah, how much?
And
how much
they were it was something like 75 pounds or something crazy like that. And so the woman
and he was like 13 or 14 when he had this revelation,
right. So they had, but what happened was you had this linebacker from the BYU team come inside there, and as the owner began to talk to this gentleman saying, hey, it doesn't make sense that this could actually take place. He goes, let me give you an example. These plates are supposed to be the actual weight that Joseph Smith had carried as he ran through away from people that were trying to get a hold of him. He said, oh, that could happen. I could do that. You could do that. So she challenged him to pick up these plates and just run around the center aisle there of the shelves, and he did that. And as he ran around about 10 times, he stopped, he put it down, and he was sweating, and he goes, you know what? It never happened, did it?
Wow.
But the point is, when you're able to actually put something inside people's hands,
tangible.
put something on the screen that they can see, it changes everything.
Right. It does.
You know, I love it. I loved what Shannon had done there.
Well done. Well done, team out there in Las Vegas. I hope many others will follow your lead and go to festivals, fairs, community events, set up a booth, and do that.
Yep.
Great. Just a great idea. All right, this week's giveaways real fast. Time is flying. This week's winners, third prize, 5 180 bumper stickers, goes to Dennis Ranger of Gorham, Maine. Second prize, 10 180 DVDs, goes to Matt Becker of Spring, Texas. And first prize, the 180 course, goes to Monique Merritt of Bear, Delaware.
All right.
Bear, Delaware.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, one and all. Daniel, those are already out. They're out. They're in the mail. You'll be receiving them soon. This week's giveaway, first prize will be Unbelievable. No, I mean, it is unbelievable, but that's the name of the documentary. It's a debate between Cy Ten Bruggencott, a good friend of us in the ministry, and atheist Paul Baird, where Cy hands Paul his hat.
Wow. You know, if you're not a debate listener, if you've yet to really kind of get into that realm, this is a great place to start off because there's 2 debates that are on here. And the first one, it lays the whole premise on why presuppositional apologetics is necessary. In fact, the moderator had no idea what presuppositional apologetics is, so he had a chance to discuss it all throughout. So Eric Hovind from creationtoday.org had sent that in to us along with a bunch of others for free, and that we're offering here on at least this one. So
because the others might be distributed elsewhere.
Yes.
Like
Sorry,
within
Eric.
the building.
Yeah.
Send us more, though, Eric. Send us more free stuff. We love that. And second prize is 10 180 DVDs. And third prize is, again, 5 180 bumper stickers. Email us at onthebox@livingwaters.com. Full name, full address, and your zip code. Enter only once this week. And we'll announce the winners next Monday. All right. It's the Great Commission for everyone. My name is Davina. I'm from the UK. And pretty new to On the Box and the Way of the Master. I have been really challenged and encouraged by the ministry. I have a question about the Great Commission in the Bible and the other biblical references about preaching the gospel in and across the world. Could you explain how we know that the command is for all believers and not just for the disciples? I believe it is for all of us, but I'm not sure how to validate that from the Scriptures. Good question.
Yeah, you know, it actually
Come on,
is.
Dean, give it to us.
It's an interesting question because it makes you pause and think.
Yes.
Because you take for granted, no, aren't we to go and make disciples? But what about the context? You know, in Matthew 10:5, we see Jesus telling his disciples to only go to the house of Israel, don't go to the Gentiles. And then at the end of the very last chapter of Matthew, it says, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature, right, making disciples. But then he says, and lo, I'm with you to the end of the age.
Right.
Right? So it doesn't mean to the end of their age, till when they're dead, but to the end of the age. Right? So we would see from there that disciples make disciples. What is the point on making a disciple unless that disciple is going to go and make a disciple?
Right.
Right? I mean, that's interesting enough. And then we see in Romans chapter 10, verse 4, it says, for Christ is the end of the law of righteousness to everyone who believes. All right, so this is well after the disciples, the initial disciples, would have been made.
That's right.
Shortly thereafter, but it was after that point. And then we see, if we continue on, that in order to believe, you need to have faith. Right, they're almost synonymous terms.
Right, without faith, it's impossible to please God.
But who has believed what he has heard from us? So faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ. And that word faith deals with saving faith. Right? Not just faith to mature in your Christian walk, but it's dealing specifically with saving faith. So saving faith comes through the hearing of the Word of God. And if we backtrack just a little bit, it says, how are they to call on him in whom they have not believed? And how are they to believe in him in whom they have never heard? And how are they to hear without someone preaching? So things have well continued past the apostolic age, if you would, at that place. At the bare minimum, it's at the very end there. So we are to go and make disciples. The inference is there at the bare minimum. Yeah. You make disciples, those disciples make disciples, and those disciples make disciples all the way to today. So if we don't make disciples, then what happens? The inference with this question would be that Christianity dies off with the disciples that were made from that first-hand handout of whatever they're going to do to be able to reach out to that first group of people.
Right.
But yet we're Christians.
Yeah, and if it was to stop with the disciples, then why it almost seems counterintuitive to say go and proclaim the gospel to every creature, but Christianity, the faith is going to die with you.
Right.
So why go out and share with anybody if it's going to end at about 90, 95 AD?
AD, right, yeah. Yeah, it's a great point. And that's a good question. It made me think a little bit.
It did, yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. Thanks, Davina. Good question. All right. Next one. I've been watching your show since day one. They're the one. I believe in what you do and pray that your ministry would reach out even further. I have one question for you today. Is there a difference between religion and Christianity? I have been asked, are you a religious person? I would say that I'm a Christian. I know that God wants us to have a personal relationship with him, but does that mean religion?
Yeah. You know, I've said since the beginning of my conversion that I'm not religious. I just simply have a relationship with Christ. And it's been said that religion is man's attempt to get to God, and Jesus Christ was God's attempt to get to man. You know, I hate the word religion. You know, religion typically works on the outside, then tries to work its way inside, whereas God went right for the heart, changes the heart, makes that person a new creature, a new creation, and then we automatically change. And being a new creature, we're able to make choices and do things that we once hated, but now we love those. We love those things. Yeah. So I understand that. But if somebody were to come up to me and say, hey, what religion are you? For the sake of argument, I'd say I'm a Christian. You're a Christian? What kind of a Christian? I'm a born-again Christian. Now, it becomes an oxymoron at that point, but I do it to get rid of confusion.
Sure.
Right? But I don't think Christianity is a religion any more than the church is a building. You know, Christians are those who follow Christ. A Christian simply means a follower of Christ or little Christ. So we follow Christ, and if you want to call that a religion, I guess you can, and I'm okay with that. But I understand the concern in the midst of that because we don't want to be lumped up and categorized with every other people group in the world.
Yeah, including many who call themselves Christians who are merely religious.
Right.
You know, they go to church on Sunday. They live like hell Monday through Saturday. They're not born again.
Yeah.
They
exactly.
simply carry the title of Christian. And you know, when I'm out talking to people, I engage someone in conversation, and they sense the conversation's moving to spiritual things. It's not uncommon for the person to say, "You know what? I really don't want to talk about religion."
Oh, great!
And
Either
that's my response. Oh, I'm so glad. I don't want to talk about religion either.
Yeah.
And they get this look in their face, like, "Well, what do you want to talk about then? If it's not," and it keeps you in the conversation. So, another good question. All right. Why aren't we told in the Bible to preach the law and the gospel? This comes from a pastor in Ireland. People are watching the show in Ireland. And one pastor, instead of studying, is watching our show. No. I just wanted to say that I've been catching up with all the previous episodes, starting with episode 1, when they were oh so good. You know, it's hard to think about what we did back then. And I'm now working my way through March. This is a tenacious, persevering pastor, I think, day by day. It is worth watching each and every episode so as to not miss a single nugget of truth. I have a question that sits somewhere in the back of my mind, though. Why aren't we told in the Bible to go and preach the law and the gospel? This would have made life so much easier for us who have tried to preach the gospel for years. Here I am, approximately 25 years of personal evangelizing, only having discovered this secret in the past couple of years. If only there had been a few verses telling us, go into all the world and preach the law, then the gospel.
Right. You know, I agree that would make it easier. But there's a lot of words that are not in the Bible that are still truths. You know, the word Trinity is not in the Bible. The word Bible is not in the Bible. You know, you think of omniscience or omnipresence. These words that describe God are not in the Bible per se, but they describe truths.
Seeker-driven's not in the Bible either, nor is it alluded to. But anyways, I digress.
That's right. But here's the thing. Somebody once shared this with me many years ago, and I've held on to it. All right, and it's this. The wisdom of God is not hidden from us. It's hidden for us. Yeah. Go and get it.
Wow.
So I like that. So God's not trying to hide things away from us.
Go ahead.
Get inside the Word of God to go and get it. So that's what I do. So is it still a biblical truth that we need to use the law to bring the knowledge of sin to pave the way for the grace of God and the cross and the beauty of the resurrection? Absolutely. It's there. It's not hidden from us. It's hidden for us. Go and get it. So I agree it would make things easier, but it would also make us lazier. So there you go.
I love that. So where is that a Markism, or did you hear that before?
Somebody shared that with me once before. I don't know where, but I think it was at Bible college.
The wisdom of God is not hidden from us. It is hidden for us. Go and get it.
Yep.
That's like my Facebook status, Twitter status, something I'm going to post that on the blog. I love that. That was good. Pastor, keep plugging away. Thank you for being a pastor in Ireland, proclaiming the gospel, and wanting to do it in a biblical way. We hope many, many, many pastors like you around the world will follow your lead. And thank you so much for writing. We got like 2 minutes. Anything going on in the chat room?
I see one question. That has come through. It says, what if someone says they don't believe in heaven and hell?
What's the next one? No.
It says see first one.
Yeah. Oftentimes when someone starts an objection by saying, I don't believe, usually my first response is, it doesn't matter what you believe. What matters is whether or not what you believe is true.
Yeah.
Because truth isn't determined by our belief.
Right.
Truth is determined by whether or not it is true. And you are far more schooled in that than I am.
And I don't know why it is, but we think that God has a less sense of justice than mankind. If you think about it, we with our finite minds are able to set up a judicial system and punish people that have broken civil and federal laws. Well, how about God, whose eyes are in every place, keeping watch the good as well as the evil? So there is a day of reckoning that's going to take place. What's going to happen? Well, God has set up a place for people who break his law to go to his prison, which is a place called hell. And we can see the severity of hell, the severity that God carries over for sin because of how long hell and heaven actually are. So I wish I had more time, but we are running out of time.
Well, we could talk about that again. But, you've talked about this elsewhere, season 4.
Yep.
Right? Remember what episode that was? No?
I don't.
Okay, well, go get all of season 4, and you're bound to find it somewhere in there. Hey, and we need more of your questions on theboxoflivingwaters.com, on theboxoflivingwaters.com. We don't care what it's about, so long as it's about everything we want to talk about.
Right.
About evangelism, anything pertaining about the Bible, Christian worldview, send us your questions at ontheboxoflivingwaters.com, and we will try to get to as many as we can. Please be praying for the staff here. As you noticed, he's taller than Ray. Ray's not here. Ray is inundated with interviews from around the world, about 180, which is a good thing. And the staff here is working literally 7 days a week. Did they win this weekend?
They're very consistent.
Meaning they win, they lose, they win, they lose?
No, they're 0-4.
Oh, Pittsburgh's 2-2. Pittsburgh is 2-2. Not a great start, but what a much better start than 0-4. Till tomorrow, be encouraged, strengthened, and unafraid. Proclaim the gospel. Don't just talk about football. You're full of it!
Living Waters presents On the Box.